Hey everyone, I'm KELSEYHEENAN and welcome to today's episode of The First Hour. Today our guest is Allie Clifton. Allie is a sports broadcaster and she currently works for the Los Angeles Lakers at Spectrum Sportsnet. She's also worked at the Cleveland Cavaliers, and over the last decade, she has been a sideline reporter and sports broadcaster. She has had many different types of roles, including hosting. She also hosts a hit podcast called Road Trippin with Richard Jefferson and Channing Frye, which is the first athlete podcast where they connect with athletes and NBA players and share their stories. It's amazing. If that's not enough, Allie has won 5 Emmy Awards, 5 of them. So get excited. Allie is amazing. And even if you're not interested in sports or broadcasting, you're going to learn a lot of different things that you can utilize in your own life. So if you're ready, let's meet Allie. Okay, you have your green tea.
Yeah.
Surprised it's not your coffee.
I've had plenty of that today.
What's your order again? It's
venti, non-fat cappuccino, extra hot, extra dry.
Extra dry. And you've described it as bone dry.
So I actually didn't know that was a thing until they gave it to me and they said, here's your bone dry cappuccino. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. Which again is probably why half the time I don't get it how I want it, because I don't use the correct terminology. I just say what I want to say.
I mean, to be fair, I had never heard that either.
I really should just say, can I have some espresso with foam? That's what I should say.
It's probably the most direct way.
Right?
I'm just like blown away that you get this giant cup, 20 ounces? How big is a venti?
I don't go
85 ounces?
Right. Too much. Yeah.
It's a lot. But it's this baby amount of coffee and then fall all the way to the top.
Yeah. And it does it. You know, at this point, I don't even think it's doing what it's supposed to.
What is it supposed to be doing?
Giving me life, giving me energy. I think it's just there for like, oh, look at me. I'm carrying my Starbucks cup.
Does it give you happiness though?
It's all that matters.
It's literally all that matters.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's
So,
really cool.
Allie, welcome in. I'm so
Here we
excited.
are.
I'm so excited. I mean, I see you multiple times every week, and I watch you on television, and I watch you on the internet, and
On the internet.
just like
scary.
as a whole. Well, I'm not the only one, believe me.
You know, actually, though, I do watch you on the internet too. So fair.
that
I just never heard it out loud like that.
I know that was a really creepy way to say it, and I kind of take it back.
No, I love it. Keep it in.
So you are a sports broadcaster. You are a podcast host. You literally have 4 jobs
Yeah, maybe. Is that what it is?
in addition to being a plant mom.
Being a plant mom? No, I'm not a plant mom. I actually don't even think I own one plant, by the way. Having said that, I'd like to think that I just do what I love. No matter in what capacity or how. I get to talk hoops and be around sports. So I guess if you call it a job, but I just call it kind of my passion and doing what I love.
What sparked that
Yeah.
interest?
I think simply the fact that, I feel like ever since I came out of my mother's womb, God love her, I've just been around competition. You know, when I was young, I remember playing organized basketball. I think it wasn't until I was in like 2nd grade. But the crazy part about that is I had been a swimmer for a couple years even before that. So a lot of people don't even know that's kind of truly my first passion and love. I swam competitively for a long time. One of my biggest sports dreams was to swim in the Olympics. And obviously I did not accomplish that. However, I was a swimmer. I hooped. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, played college basketball. And so I thought I was going to be an education major, and I did 3.5 years of that in college at the University of Toledo. And there was just this like overwhelming sense of, I don't know if it was so much of being away from sport at that point, right? My career was about to come to an end as a player, and I was kind of shutting that aspect of my life off, or being an educator was just not for me. And kudos, I always say it, respect to all those that are, my dad just retired at 40 plus years in education and been around it my entire life. It's just, it wasn't for me. And I felt this strong drive and urge to find a way to stick around the game as much as possible. And having played college basketball, I chose that sport. I was a volleyball player as well. I ran track and field. But hoops was where it was for me. So I just think, there's these times or like feelings within you that sometimes you just can't ignore them. And I think that was a big one for me in college. Like looking back even now, I don't think I fully understood it at the time. But like last minute I changed my major and I dove into sports broadcasting because of a conversation I had on a beach at Hilton Head, which is crazy. I ran into a girl from my hometown who was a sideline reporter for the Atlanta Thrashers at the time. So NHL. And, we were just taking a stroll on the beach and we came across her, Natalie Taylor, and just kind of stuck with me that summer. And, so I dove into broadcasting, long story short. And I'm glad I did, obviously, because here I am. And it's not, I always say this, it's not who I am, but it certainly helped to define who I am and what I do on the daily. And so far, over a decade in, I love it. So, yeah.
Well, and you're really extremely good at it. I kid you not. Every time we turn on the Lakers.
Oh, shoot.
You're good. I'm just like, oh, there she is. Like, I just get like, we're super good friends. We see each other like all the time, but it's so amazing what you do. Like, I have so many questions about all of the things that you do with how you get prepared, how you get in the zone, and just like, more about your origin story as well. But it's so impressive. I mean, if you don't know this, she's won 5 Emmys. 5 of them. Like, not 1, 5. That's so many Emmys.
You're too kind.
But you are incredible at what you do. And just not only at what you do, but being a woman in what I would assume is a male-dominated space. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
It's really cool to see how bold you are and how well respected you are just as a person. It's always fun for me to turn on the TV and just be like, Allie's freaking crushing it once again.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. You for saying that. I don't even know how to, like, listening to you kind of lay it out that way, I guess. Like, the Emmys are wonderful. They're awesome. I do know, like, receiving them a part of a team as well. It's gratifying, right? But I just think that, again, being around sports for so long, it just feels like what I do, no matter if it's a male-dominated space or not, which... Shout out to all the women who continue to leave their mark and show so many that we belong. But I just think too, like, once you get in this space and you are around incredible men and incredible women covering the thing that we love the most, and that's sports, that's where it like really hits. Right. And it's not like I don't sit out there and I don't think every single day, oh, I got to go work to find my niche and make sure that people recognize I'm a female and I am here. I go out to, one, be myself, take on the opportunity and seize the opportunity that I'm given. Very fortunate, though I've worked very, very hard, and just enjoy it. I don't even know how to, like, it's kind of hard sometimes to like put it into words because I'm very grateful to be a part of a space that sometimes, and for so long, I think as a female was looked at as maybe not our space, or that sometimes it couldn't be accomplished. And I think it's also what just drives me every single day to keep going. Because I do remember being a little girl and, you know, looking up to those in the business and even through college, like studying. I mean, still even to this day, studying broadcasters on the daily and finding ways for myself to improve, be better, leave a path, leave a mark for the next generation. I mean, it's just a constant. But someone said something to me once, actually just recently, Michael Wilbon, a dear friend of mine in the business. I went and had dinner with him, and he does PTI, right? Pardon the interruption, every single day. He's been doing it for decades. And I asked him, what do you do in terms of like preparation on the daily? Like, how long does it take you to prepare? And he was like, Allie, it literally he just told me this a couple weeks ago. And he was like, I Allie, it's a lifestyle. He was like, I wouldn't even think of it as preparation. I live this. And it just kind of like clicked for me. It's like, yeah. When you really do love what you do and you have that passion to be the best version of yourself at what you do, it does. It becomes a lifestyle. And I think that's where it just feels right. And I feel like I'm kind of like embarking on that. I'm kind of living that every single day. So again, I appreciate you saying those kind things. But at the same time, for me, it's a lifestyle. And it's what I do. And I love it. And it's so much fun. And funny point that you say every time you turn on the television and you watch us, you see me, our good friend Marissa, it was just recently that she was watching the playoffs coverage with her mom, who I guess was not really into watching our shows. And Marissa texted us during a pregame show, and I shared it with my colleagues at the desk, of her mom just having question after question after question of like how I do what I do. Yeah. And for me, it's funny because I'm just like, this is what I do. What do you mean? How do I do it? Right. And sometimes you have to take a step back and just remember how lucky you are and how cool it is, because it is different, right, for some people. But it's just me. That's how I think of it.
It's really apparent that it's a lifestyle for you because it's just so natural. But clearly you put in so much work. And so at the beginning, we talked about how you kind of have 4 or 5, a million different roles within it. So with Spectrum, you currently work for the Lakers.
Yep.
And you work in studio. And then you also do some sideline reporting still?
Yeah, whenever they need. I did, obviously, my 6 years in Cleveland, I was strictly a sideline reporter. And so when I came out here and made the transition to Los Angeles, it was more so to fill a studio host role. And whenever our guy, Mike Trudell, who has been here forever, just an amazing human being, but awesome at his job as well, whenever he needs a fill-in, then I will then shift over because it's something that I've worked on, right? So to fill that role as a sideline, yes, I'll take on that opportunity.
That's super cool. I mean, taking a page from your book, KYP is something that you taught me. Know your personnel. And so when we've talked before, that's something that you do a lot of kind of research on people, right? So whether you're in studio or doing sideline reporting, what does that look like? How are you knowing all of these things about people and the stats and all of the different things that you need to know?
Yeah. Again, because then you add to it kind of like the analyst role, right? That I do with the W. So it's kind of like all under the same umbrella in a sense in my world, just in terms of it's broadcasting. But my biggest thing as a player, I prided myself on being versatile on the floor. And so I think that's something that I've wanted to carry over into my professional career as a broadcaster, because Doris Burke is that person, right? She was someone that any given day you could turn on the television and where would she be? Would she be in the booth calling a game? Would she be on the sideline calling a game? Or would she be in studio hosting the shows? And so for me, I tried to have that opportunity to do a little bit of everything, which presents its own preparation, right? So that's where I think the living it as a lifestyle comes into play. Like if you walk into my house and you turn on the television after you get obviously to the guide, the first thing that's going to come on is ESPN or NBA TV. It's going to be one of the NBA shows, right? If not that, it's SportsCenter. Then I have my phone. It's just constant scrolling, the people I follow and the news cycles that I pay attention to and to keep up with. So that is a lot of preparation. And then from there, with our studio shows, as an example, it's about a 3-4 hour window where I arrive before our pregame show, for example, and you sit with your producers. And our producers here at Spectrum are so wonderful, insightful. They're good writers. They're in tune with the game. They're creative. And so they plan out a 60-minute show, and we go over it. They allow us, my co-host Chris McGee, and I to write our own questions, which is awesome, make it our own. And then we go out a couple hours later. Obviously, we do the hair of the makeup thing. That's all a part of it. And then we deliver the show. We have a pregame show. We go into the conference room, sit with our analysts, our Hall of Famers who are awesome, do a halftime show, do a postgame show, an hour postgame show. And then we also have non-game day shows, which are hours, an hour each time. Yeah, and it's 4 or 5 days a week, depending on how many games there are, obviously, that week for the NBA. And we do it for however long the season lasts. So it's a grind. But I think the one thing here is I'm salary. I'm on staff with Spectrum. So, like I said, a lot of people didn't realize that we don't just do games. You know, we do non-game day shows. We do podcasts. We have the Lake Show podcast that I host, which is anywhere from 30 to an hour as well. So I just think when you're around it all the time, every single day, that preparation is just kind of ingrained in you. But it is, when it comes to the work, it is the number one piece of advice I've been given and I would give to anyone. You cannot be too prepared. There's no such thing. You can have prepared so much that you only use 10% of your information, but the feeling of going into a situation unprepared is one of the worst experiences you can have as a professional. And I've heard it from other people in the business. I've felt it myself, which is why I will always pride myself on work and putting in the time. But again, it just kind of goes back to, you know, when you love it, it is just a part of it.
So if someone wanted to get into this and start learning these things or go to school for it or just get better at speaking or preparing for something like this, where would you tell them to start?
Connections are very important. Relationship building in this business. I, especially starting out, never say no to an opportunity. You don't know how much it can help you, show you, guide you, whether it's solidifying what you wanted to do, or for me, I took on opportunities fresh out of college where it showed me where I didn't want to be. And that was very helpful. I also think the persistence aspect is key, because you never know. Someone's no, maybe another person's yes. I was turned down hundreds of times, not even hundreds of times, but multiple times. Realistically, I sent out a resume and reel to anyone and everyone I could think of, not even really understanding any role or anything. And I got plenty of no's. But I think just continuing to put in that work, building the relationships early on, and getting your hands and feet into any and every opportunity, whether it's an intern base, whether it's doing it for free initially, just getting your foot in the door and proving that you want to do the work, I think is a great foundation. And then from there, it's just opportunity. I often say, again, I wasn't fortunate to go to college for journalism because I chose a different path at the time, right? And so for me, I think the more you're able to be in the field, not a lot of what we do, I would say, and again, this is my own personal take because I didn't go to school for it, I learned in a book because I didn't. But where I did learn was on the fly and in the field. And it was because I sacrificed a lot of time. And I say that from a standpoint of in college, I was giving up weekends with friends, my teammates, to go be an intern in the local sports department and be at high school football games, standing on a sideline, learning how to operate a camera, you know, and hold my own microphone and learn from those that were ahead of me at that time. So all those little opportunities and things, they really do add up and they do matter. And so I think it really starts there.
So what was your first year like as a professional?
Oh my.
Tell me more.
So I'll give you an example from when I was getting my master's, because it was the first time I'd ever called a game. In my first 2 years, I was getting my master's at Toledo. I was a GA in the weight room. So it was a 4 a.m. wake up, went to train athletes till like 2 p.m. And then 3 nights a week, I would call college basketball games, high school basketball games, whatever it looked like. And at that time, which I wouldn't consider myself technically a professional, but BCSN I will forever be indebted to. It was a local sports market that I got my feet wet with. I was calling a double header in Toledo, girls high school basketball over the holidays. And I remember leaving and telling people close to me that I would not make it, that I was awful, and that just because I thought I played basketball, I thought I could go sit and talk about it. It is a whirlwind, especially your first time. I was awful. And so that was like that very first moment. And then when I actually got my first gig, which was with the Cavs, Fox Sports Ohio, I actually walked off camera. My very first hit, it was preseason in Philadelphia on the sideline, live. I just walked off camera, and my producer said, Allie, like, it's okay. I understand, it's different. It's your first one, but you can't walk off camera. Yeah. Like, we are here to be on camera. And so I think from there, I knew deep down I could only go up from there. Right. I remember the second game ever of the regular season. We were here in LA and the Cavs were playing the Clippers, and they had just played the night before Milwaukee. And I went to break saying that the Cavs were leading the Bucks at the half. So I said the wrong team. I have been hit in the head with a basketball. I have, while doing a live report, I have said some words that are out there on the internet that people thought I said and I didn't, which is embarrassing. These were all within my first couple of years. Like, it's just, it's a lot. And I remember even after my first year in the NBA, which was my first professional gig, I didn't think I was coming back. I didn't think I was built for it. And I don't know what happened that summer. I think probably because I was under contract and I had no choice. But I owe it a lot to my producers and those around me in Cleveland especially that just kind of took a chance on me to give me, the grace and the space, but also teach. I was very coachable in college, something my parents taught us three kids, and it's something that I think is just applicable in life. And so I think that certainly has helped me in my career. I will always take advice. I will always take ways to get better, constructive criticism. So, yeah, that first year was, again, I didn't think I was going to stay in the business.
Well,
it's a lot. It was a lot.
I can't even imagine. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, especially for your first gig to have it be for the Cavs. I mean, that's a big deal. So I can understand how much pressure that felt like. Ella's going to come and greet us periodically.
Come here.
So she might come say hi.
Come on.
She'll play shy for a minute. So, yeah, I mean, when you're getting this feedback, being coachable is really important. I totally agree. And it's got to be challenging to receive some of that feedback and not feel a little defensive, or how do you respond to feedback?
Well, I think I give it truly. My parents have, from such a young age, they just instilled that in us. I mean, I will ask for it now because I think too, there's this thought and feeling in our business that sometimes no news is good news. And, but having said that, I also think that if you're someone that wants to constantly grow and evolve, like being satisfied and just thinking your way or the highway is the only way that's just not my way of thinking. So I welcome it. It doesn't mean that it's easy to take by any means, but my biggest motto in life is finding comfort in the uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of that comes with that kind of territory, right? But I think feedback it's a way to not only better yourself, but I also think when you're a part of a team and you're trying to make the team better with your role, you learn things about other people along the way too. So I'm a big fan of it. And I also encourage people to, especially in our business, to ask for it.
So when you walked off camera, when, a word flub happens and your producers are giving you coaching advice, like what are some of the things that you've learned where now maybe it feels automatic? Like what are some of these things that you've learned?
One, that we're human, I think first and foremost, like we're not perfect. And I think too, like, maybe it's the age of TikTok. Maybe it's the age of, what we went through with the pandemic. People like to see real. And as much as structure can be good, I think too, there is a sense of, vulnerability and just your ability to just really be yourself that can go a long way. And so I think first and foremost, it starts there and not be so hard on yourself, and I understand we all want to be perfect or we all strive to be this certain way or meet this certain standard. And I think that's also important just for goal setting and having an understanding of, putting one foot in front of the other and getting to the next place or space in your world. But just be real, just be human, be yourself is the biggest thing. And then from there, I think it's just, I don't know, being able to adjust, right? Like being able to own your truth, adjust, and understand that we're all out here just trying to do our best and not take things too serious. It's kind of all just, I don't know. I remember like in the first couple of years as well, like thinking every single thing and it is, a lot of people hang on to every word you say, right? But that's where you trust your preparation and you trust what you put in, right? But just don't take it too serious. Don't take yourself too serious. And I think that all plays a part in that feedback or that criticism or being a part of, a bigger picture.
Yeah, that's such an important thing to be thinking about because it's so easy to try and just be like, oh, everything has to be perfect all the time, especially on live TV. It's not going to be.
No, it's not. And that's the thing. Oftentimes we say, well, welcome to live television. Like if there's plenty of times when like the prompter rolls the wrong way or I say the wrong word and sometimes you don't catch it till after. I remember, I think it was last season or the season before, I literally used a phrase that I was like, Allie, that doesn't go on television. I think I'm pretty sure I said that some player put the FU in fun. And everyone's like, wait, what? Like Rob Ory, I remember was sitting there and like laughing hysterically inside. And then when the camera was, I was like, what's wrong with that? He was like, you just said. And I was like, oh, I see what you're like. Okay, sorry,
But also that speaks to your level of comfort, being able to be yourself and the preparation, knowing that you've got all the boxes checked, that you can let yourself be yourself.
Yeah, right. Until I get that call. But fortunately, I didn't get that call. Thank God. Yeah.
I feel like there's probably been way worse things said on live television. So.
Yes. I could have actually said the word.
Yeah, exactly.
But we didn't.
You're fine. You're fine. Oh my gosh. Do you have any favorite moments from your career?
For sure, the 2016 championship, the Cavs, because I was born and raised in Ohio, born and raised a Cavs fan. So I think too, I always say that, especially working for a team broadcast partner, it's as a career, as a professional, and obviously I'm a little biased, but it can be the most exhausting yet rewarding experience. You are in it every single day. And if you want to be good at what you do, you have no choice to be in it every single day, but to be in it every single day. So I just remember that season. And obviously it was just the second time that I was a part of playoffs with the team. And I went to practice every single day. I think I missed in 4 seasons when I was allowed to be in practice at that time. You could count the amount of times I missed on one hand in 4 years. And the Cavs went to the finals every single year. And it was just a grind. It was a lot. And so to be a part of that was incredible. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be on the floor. I was in the locker room for that celebration, the parade that just like took over the city. I still like get chills thinking about it, right? And I always tell people like, and I was fortunate. I got a championship ring with the squad and stuff like that. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Can I see it?
Yeah, sure. I'll give
wearing it right now.
No, I've never once worn it.
Can we please like go to In-N-Out and you're wearing your ring?
It's actually incredible. There were tiers and like tiers of what the ring looks like. And obviously the players get one level, right? Which is incredible. But we were surprised and we were the second level. And so it's my parents have taken it and put it in a safe in a bank somewhere. So it's wonderful.
So you can't go to In-N-Out, but it's fine.
Yeah. I'm like, you can keep it there.
Yeah.
Having said that, it was one of those experiences that I'll just never forget. Right. It'll be with me forever. And obviously with the Nuggets just winning recently, one of my colleagues, the reporter for the Nuggets, Katie Wingy, reached out to me and she was just like, can you shed any light? Can you give me any kind of tips? And I was like, girl, just enjoy it all. Like put your phone away. And if there's ever a time to be present as a professional in this industry, and she's been in it for 6 years with the Nuggets as well and watched the build and been a part of it, just be present. And she thanked me for that after. So, just having said that, that was probably the best, my most favorite moment. I also think my Road Trippin podcast that stemmed from that time has changed so much of my career and helped to build me and take me to places and things that I never thought were possible. And being a part of the build with that. When Richard Jefferson came to me to ask me to host the podcast, I initially said no. Because I was like,
I was going to say, why?
You're crazy. Because he's crazy in a sense of, I was not crazy in a good way. I was not ready or prepared, at that time to be a part of like dialogue and conversation that was kind of outside my comfort, right? Being comfortable in the uncomfortable. And so he's like, no, let's do a practice run and we'll figure it out. And Channing, I guess, I don't remember this, but I guess Channing was supposed to be a guest. And instead we went to do the recording and Kyrie showed up at the door. And so we were like, well, maybe Channing will be a host and Kyrie will be our guest.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so when we put it out the next day, it just took off from there. But to record podcasts with some of the greatest and most wonderful athletes and celebrities that we have been able to, and to see where Road Trippin has taken, again, my career and the people that I've come across. Those are some of the most important, but also incredible moments, I think, so far, of what I've done.
How long into doing Road Trippin where you're like, okay, I've got this. I can do this. Because, I mean, I can imagine that feels intimidating to begin with.
I will say we're over 250 episodes now.
Wow.
Yeah, we started in January of 2017. I believe the average podcast lasts like 7 episodes or something. We just got the numbers on that not too long ago. But I think I was so nervous for so many. I mean, we were recording on airplanes, in hotel rooms, obviously. We've recorded on a boat. We recorded anywhere and everywhere. Kyrie said on our podcast the earth was flat, and all of a sudden we lost all of our social media. Bill Nye, we made him mad. I mean,
The science guy?
The science guy, he was not happy. Just conversations with LeBron when he stops by, obviously, to then taking Road Trippin, Rich being traded, Channing being traded. We still kept it alive. We're now on television, and now we're with our own company in Blue Wire. I just think there was never a time where once I got going, I was fine, right? I was like, okay, I'm in it to win it. This is awesome. We were doing live episodes at different breweries in Cleveland, which was awesome. But I will tell you, like, it took a while to really feel like you had something, at least in my eyes, because it's constantly evolving. And I think too now there's so many sports podcasts that you want to feel organic still, and you want to feel like yourselves. And, you know, I think our motto from the very beginning was no one tells our stories like us, because Rich did have this incredible idea, and it was the first ever athlete driven podcast. Right. And so we were doing something that had never been done before, but now it's like, how do you continue to keep it fresh and alive and where people want to consume it? So to answer your question, I guess, long story short, there is like, I'm comfortable in my space in terms of I love it and I will grind for it, but I don't think I'll ever be too comfortable, because there's always another one out there that you just want to make sure you're at the top of the game at all times.
I feel like that's an athlete mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be the best, and also you still work really hard to stay up there.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Which is just constantly work.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm so curious about the creative process for how you come up with questions, because like you said, your podcast has 250 episodes. You're on TV all the time. You're doing multiple types of podcasts. Like, what's your process like for creating questions?
Here's another thing that I've really valued and learned is I think some of the best leaders, and obviously I've prided myself in being a leader, and as a host, you are a leader in a sense, right? But some of the best leaders, I think, are the ones that not only can lead, but are willing to be led. And since coming on with Blue Wire, we've kind of built out our team, and it's helped where obviously we're so thick into basketball content that I cover the Lakers so much that our producer Jeremiah helps to give us content when and as we need. So that's helpful in terms of building that out show to show, which is a weekly podcast for us. So the researchers and his ability to kind of pull together a good hour podcast. We have the flexibility to go wherever we want because my guys, Rich and Channing, are very dynamic, I think, in their thinking. They always have a lot to say, and they cover the NBA as a whole too, right? So I think first and foremost, it starts there, which is having a structure, but not allowing the structure to dictate, right, where we go weekly. Our talent, as in Rich and Channing, dictate that. And I think that's what keeps us special and keeps us fresh, their personalities every week. But I will tell you, the best thing you can do in this business is listen. And for me, in terms of even like on the fly and the content and keeping things going and that ship afloat it's the one skill you have to develop, and that's listening. Whether it's in post-game interviews, if you're a sideline and listening to questions, or sitting at the host desk, or being the leader on a podcast. You have to be able to listen and adjust, maneuver as the show goes.
Speaking of listening, I watched a bunch of the interviews that you've done, and
boy.
I mean, it's so cool. And like, you did a few with Dwayne Wade, and he would take the mic.
Oh yeah.
Dwayne Wade here, Allie. I just got a question for you. I just want to know what you see tonight from the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That's so great.
Someone said the other day. Someone tweeted the other day, can we just forget that this happened? And it was Dwayne in a Cavs uniform. And I wanted to tweet back and say, so bad. No, because Dwayne was I know it wasn't the way, and it's funny, we joke about it now, but Dwayne coming to Cleveland meant Richard's exit from Cleveland. Okay. So there was bittersweet there, right?
Absolutely.
But it's funny, we talk about it all the time. Having said that, like anytime you get a chance to learn, be around a guy like Dwayne Wade, okay. So it's funny, we all developed an awesome relationship. Him and Channing got really close. And so him coming on, he came on a couple times, Road Trippin, and once with Kevin Love, once with Braun, and then he joined us in studio. And Dwayne, when I would have to do my sideline interview, he just had, I think at that point of his career too, he was more so about, not more so I wouldn't say, because he is who he is, right? A Hall of Famer, et cetera. Having said that, there was just this playful personality that he really gave us in Cleveland, which was my time obviously spent with him as a sideline. He was so good when he had to do sideline interviews. You know, he was never too good for the moment. I thought he always took the time, which I always appreciated as a reporter, to spend with me after games on the floor doing those interviews. And he always just let his personality show, you know, and for someone like me who at that point of his career, so late in his career, got to see that up close for the first time, it was special. I think he's such an awesome human being, which of course we all know who he was as a player, but which was nothing short of phenomenal. So yeah, he was funny. He was good times.
I love it. It's cool to see the rapport that you have with all of these athletes, and you've interviewed LeBron many times, and that sit down with him was really phenomenal that you did.
Yeah, those are I was given some advice too. Kyrie was one of them when I first came in to the Cavs. It was his second season, my first year. LeBron, another one. There's a handful of guys that you just have to be on your toes at all times. They've heard it, they've seen it, anything and everything. And if you want to be different, if you want to be fresh, you have to be on your toes. And LeBron is certainly at the top of all of that. And the biggest piece of advice that I got with him was you have to be present. And so I think that was actually when I was granted access into practice every single day. He was one of the big reasons why, I don't even know if he knew this at the time, but why I showed up every day. Because for humans like that, for people like that, athletes like that, to know that you are putting in just as much to your craft as they are to theirs, it just continues to earn and gain that respect and trust. And so interviewing him still to this day, I have to take a deep breath. You know, how can I be different? Has he been asked this question in the last 10 years that I've covered him? Obviously he has,
the last
but
decade.
Don't waste his time.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel that way about every athlete, but I never want to waste anyone's athlete or anyone's time, any human's time. But when he's the one constantly in front of the camera, in front of the mic, because he's doing media almost every single day, he's heard a lot. right? So it just brings a different level of attentiveness and awareness, I think, to the profession.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's off season right now.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to for the Lakers next year?
Never stops. Funny story, when I took the job with the Lakers, and obviously I knew I was on salary, so that was a bit different than what I had come from as a freelancer in Cleveland. But when I found out that we had to work in the summer and do shows, I was like, what do we talk about? And the answer was simple. It's the Lakers. There's always something to talk about. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the first summer came and I was like, oh, yes, you're right. There is. So I think right now, obviously, as we're filming this, the draft is coming up. And then from there, you go to free agency, and what they're going to do with the roster, I think, is obviously the biggest question. I think they surprised so many people. Rob Pelinka in the front office did such a remarkable job at the trade deadline to assemble the roster that they did to close out the season. It was a wild ride. But to see what they do with that now. And look, I don't know if anyone needs to be told that Braun still has something left in the tank. So making him, obviously, he and Anthony Davis your priority, and building around that is key. And so I think I'll just have my eye on that over the next several weeks. And then from there, I'll be able to kind of gauge what next season will feel like and look like. But hopefully they're contending and they're putting themselves in a position to be there at the end, which is nice.
Absolutely. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So certainly not everyone is going to be interested in pursuing sports broadcasting, but I think that it's just cool to hear your perspective and your reflections on how to listen, connect with people. And you just have such an incredible confidence in your presence. How would you suggest people can work on these skills?
Oh boy. That's a complicated and loaded question.
You're welcome.
It's to each his own, you know? One, I think
You're just so humble. Okay.
Well, it's interesting because some of the things I struggle with are being on camera and talking, and here I am in the business, right? But so people are like, why do you do this? Well, I love hoops and sports, and I also love being uncomfortable, and I love the leadership aspect, right, of the roles that I've taken on. Having said that, I really do think that obviously knowing who you are, knowing your strengths and what you bring to the table, and being very in tune with that is important. Not being afraid to fail. I think these I feel like are all philosophical versus like nuts and bolts of like, go out and do this, right? But I also think once and those are always evolving and you're always constantly growing in those. But I think having just an understanding of that, but then there are, when it comes to this business, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about in terms of feedback and handling criticism or, you know, accepting the positive things that come. There are incredible broadcasting coaches out there. And when it comes to developing skill sets, there are individuals out there. I'll drop someone's name right now. His name is GMAT. And who will watch you, will study you, and break down what you are, who you are in front of the camera, in your role, etc. It can be uncomfortable. It can be challenging. It can be, uneasy, I guess, if you will. But I think if you're willing, even myself, who would go back all the time and listen, I can't stand to hear my voice, but sitting there and listening, it's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems, right? So being willing to like study and put in that work on yourself, whether it comes from a coach or it comes from you just taking the time to be uncomfortable and kind of dive into it, I think is important. I really do. And then outside of that, just like always being willing to grow, you know, not being satisfied or thinking that you know it all and that you've figured it out. Because the moment you feel like you've arrived, things can change, you know? And, but I don't think a lot of people know that there are those coaches out there that will take the time on you to help you improve, and they'll give you those little tools and those nuggets. Whether it's, you know, your inflection in your voice, whether it's timing, whether it's things to just think about while you're processing all your notes. I mean, one of my biggest colleagues, RIP to Fred McLeod, he used to watch me write everything, all my hits, all my questions. Now, granted, when I write, that somehow translates to my brain. That's how I operate. But he gave me little knickknacks of like, maybe take some time to just bullet point instead, and then trusting your ad lib abilities, right? So there's so much there. But the reason why I think I started that with how loaded and complicated it is, I think it starts within first. There's a lot that you have to, I believe, that you have to trust and put in within yourself. And that's work, outside of the work for the job itself. But I think it's the reality. I think it's the truth.
It's cool to hear that, because a lot of people focus on, okay, I need X, Y, Z, and then it's going to work. But if we don't have the overall confidence and value in yourself, it's only going to go so far, because it's going to translate into the camera. Like if you don't have that confidence, everyone's going to know.
I think you've actually, like getting to know you and being around you and all of your expertise with health and mental health and training, et cetera, the way in which you've even just broken down little things for me kind of has reassured that thinking. So by the way, kudos to you in that, because I do. I really believe like every single time I want to come at something very black and white, you just kind of remind me that it's not always the case. And it's important to hear that, right? Because I think sometimes just peeling back the onion and the layers and recognizing that there's more to it, right? It sometimes can be like positive. It can be helpful. Can be reassuring, it can be the difference between giving up and pushing on. And I think as much as you do that as an individual in your expertise and line of work, it's the same for ours.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So if you weren't doing what you're doing, being an amazing podcast host, sports broadcaster, what the heck would you be doing with your life?
No one would know me. No one would see me. I would be little Mowgli off in a wood somewhere by myself.
I love that.
So I would be running around barefoot, hair just strangled down, straggly, all the things.
Just like opposite life.
That's why I say black or white.
Yes.
Like it's one or the other in my world. I'm a big family person. I think that's one of the biggest things that came with my career. Hardest things that came with my career that I live with every day is I'm away from my family, and that's hard.
I feel you.
So
I feel you, because I've lived away from my family for a long time too. And certainly the jobs take you different places. The opportunities take you different places, but family is essential,
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful that we live in a day and age where we can obviously call, we can text, we can FaceTime and feel like we're in the same room sometimes, but still I understand to a degree.
True. Yeah, it's hard. It really is. But I always say I'm working really hard to hopefully one day be able to be closer and being able to share different memories and moments with them, along the way. So yeah, I'm sure I'd be somewhere near my family. People always ask me if I ever thought about coaching. No, I could never do that either.
Not?
I could be a strength coach.
Heck yeah.
I think when I was a grad assistant in the weight room, I found a passion in training and bringing kind of that out in people. But even that, there's nothing light about it. But in terms of like coaching, I don't know if I could do the recruiting. I don't know if I could, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Because
Yeah.
not only is it,
I don't know if I have the patience.
yeah, I mean, it's the X's and O's, but it's the recruiting, the team chemistry and dynamics there as well. Assistants that you have to navigate, and chemistry makes a big difference, and it's hard to create that.
I remember in college, I coached AAU basketball for one summer, and it was like 7th and 8th grade, and we were in a tournament in Chicago, and I drove 5 hours, and I was giving up a weekend, and we were in a game, and we were getting blasted by like 40, no exaggeration. And I looked to the bench, and one of the girls asked me like how I curled my hair. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, now granted, I was probably that way at no, I was not at 13 and 14. Having said that, I was like, yep, this is the end of my coaching. I'm done right here.
That is a strict
She was
out
cute,
for you.
but
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so
good times.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so no coaching for you. I need to know that. Okay, I recently learned that you played post. I thought you were a guard for some reason. Yeah, I thought you were a guard for some reason.
I mean, I was a 3. I was a small forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of player were you?
Okay, so I was a small forward, but I posted up smaller guards.
Gotcha.
That's what it was. Yeah. So I'm 5'11", and Mid-American Conference is what I played in, and I wasn't necessarily tall enough to just be in the post, live in the post the entire time, and I didn't shoot the 3 ball that well when I went into college. So I just kind of found my niche, if you will, in the weight room, took it very, very serious, bulked up, got strong. And I mean, the first play of every game we ran with Gator, and it was just basically a cut across the paint, and I would just post up the smaller guard. So I played at 185, but very strong. And then, I mean, as my career went on, I obviously developed the three ball a little bit more. But yeah, no, I was a small forward. So yeah.
I was a 2 guard, and I did everything possible to not drive or go inside whatsoever. Like, just keep me outside, let me shoot, and then I'm good.
What was your shooting percentage? Your 3 ball?
I don't even
didn't
remember.
know you were a three ball shooter.
Yeah, I mean, I did not like to drive. I was a pretty good free throw shooter, but like,
You didn't like contact. You and I would not have gotten along.
yeah, you probably would have been very
all the
upset.
contact.
Yeah, and I respect that, and I'm glad. Like, every team has their role, but that was definitely an area of growth for me.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, maybe I should have done like volleyball or something.
Golf.
That's too slow. Like, again, I respect it, but
Yeah.
I think for me it would have been too slow. I did love basketball so much, but
Yeah.
I just never wanted to go on the inside.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Allie, anything else that you'd like to share about
Are we done?
your work? I mean, we can be. But before we go, I did want to just show that we're using these Road Trippin mugs.
Oh yeah. There they are.
There they are. I mean, you gave me one of these, and I whenever we train, I'm literally always there with my coffee in this mug.
You're a very committed fan and supporter.
I am.
I actually really appreciate you because you know what's funny is I found these in our cupboard. It was 2020, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I sent these out as gifts to all the people that worked with us, and I just kind of forgot about them. And then they were in the back of that cupboard of mine, and I gave you one, and so then I posted it on social media, and people were like, "Where can I buy them?" And I was like, "Oh, they're kind of cool."
They're super cool.
Yeah.
Do you have hoodies or
Very
other
valid.
swag?
No, but we are actually working on our merchandise.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, a little shop. So they actually sent me something like a week ago to look at. Yeah, so hopefully soon, because we like all the coffee mugs, hoodies, hats, dad hats. Channing wanted a banana hammock.
Oh, gosh.
For all you men out there. So
So we're waiting on the edge of our seats for that.
yes, yeah. You have to go listen to episode 2, I think it was. We were in New Orleans, and it was a question. It was a fan question about like what his like basically wrestler would be if, you know, he was a wrestler.
And what was it?
It was some crazy description, and banana hammock was in it.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah.
Wait, what was yours?
I only asked the questions.
Oh, great.
Now that I know you, though, I would have taken up all the tips and advice. Are those those picture frames really in your closet here?
Oh, yeah, I'll show you. Yeah.
That is the coolest thing ever.
Thanks.
I was like, nah.
The superhero girls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are in your closet.
They're in my closet.
You see them every day.
Every day. So I'm like, who do I want to be?
I should be interviewing you. You did phenomenal, but I feel like you're more interesting than I am because
please.
even from that alone, I was like, I need you to come to my closet.
Well, I have lots of superhero art, so I will gladly. But anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Your voice is so good for this. Are we still recording? Okay. Your voice is really good for this, by the way. It's very soothing. I'm like, wow.
By the end of this, you'll just be asleep in your chair.
You know what you'd be really good at? ASMR.
ASMR.
Really? You really would.
Isn't that where they like tap?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
they like make noises in the mic.
side hustle incoming. And what's your
I
side
do
hustle?
feet pics.
I was literally going to say.
And you can do ASMR.
Perfect.
Good times.
So if this doesn't work out for us, That can be just for us.
Yeah, that could be for us.
Oh my gosh. Well, Allie, you're the best ever. Thank you for taking the time to hang out.
Yeah, always. It's my first time here.
Oh, well, first of many.
Yeah, it's best.
So where can people find you?
I don't even know. What is it? Real A Clifton, I think, on Twitter, which I don't really engage a whole lot there, but al.clifton on Instagram. And that's about it, I think. That's all I got.
Road Trippin?
Right? Oh, yeah, of course. The Road Trippin podcast with Richard and Channing. And then if you are in the California area on Spectrum, or if you follow the WNBA right now, we're on CBS Sports Network and ION a lot. So that's national.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming over.
Yep. Absolutely.
Let's
Thanks
hit the gym.
me. Let's do it.
We already have some great episodes in the queue for you, and I cannot wait to share them. So make sure you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. And whether you're watching the video or the audio, make sure you share this with a friend, because we want to share this with as many people as possible to help encourage and give the tips and the insights for the habits and the discipline so that we can all become great together. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you soon.